it does have a very indie spirit film to it, or filmmaking feel to it, because they got that dude plucking the guitar, playing the indie movie music.
Oh yeah.
So what I'm gonna do is, man, we have New Year's Eve on Tuesday. We will be here on Tuesday, but to save some time, I'm going to give you 5 of my top 10 movies of 2019. So that means that you guys will be able to take the spotlight more when you do your whole top 10.
Okay. Cool.
I don't know if you've seen a whole lot of movies.
Oh yeah, I've caught up on a lot the last couple of weeks.
Okay. Again, this is half of my top 5, and I'm starting from the bottom and working my way towards the tippy top.
All right,
Mr. Thomas. Now, before I even get into my list of top movies of 2019, I got to come in and I got to give. And what you laughing about over there?
I'm gonna give my bottom 5, but I have some other ones I'm gonna talk about before.
Only one.
All right, fair enough.
See, you don't know every goddamn thing about me. Jesus, sleep with a guy a couple of times, he thinks he knows you. No, only one.
Only
the
one.
only reason why is because, and I might give some more later as I try to watch some movies that were on your list.
Okay.
But you were talking about a movie, and I didn't get a chance to watch this movie until I was actually on a plane.
Uh-huh.
And when I saw this, I loved it, man. And I got to give an honorable mention to this movie that was almost in my top 10, but didn't exactly make it there. And this is the movie that Martin was recommending, and I finally got around to it.
You know how many girls are gonna be up your vagina? Don't knock it until you've tried it.
Those two girls are hilarious together,
They are,
man.
and they have such chemistry.
They do. That's Jonah Hill's little sister.
Yeah.
Beanie
right?
Feldstein.
Beanie Feldstein. Who's the other girl?
Caitlin Dever.
Man, those girls are so funny. And I'm going to tell you, the thing about these girls in this movie, man, the reason why they call it Booksmart is because they're not even the coolest characters in the movie.
No.
They're the main characters, but you know those movies, those high school party movies where all where your main nerdy characters are surrounded by asshole jocks and partiers and the popular kids. Turns out all those kids are actually pretty cool.
Right.
Yeah.
and not dumb.
No,
they just assume like we're the nerds, so at least we're smarter than everybody else. We're getting into a good college, and they talk to these jocks. And they're like, "Yeah, I got accepted to Harvard, but I'm not even going." Like, wait, what?
Even the dumb one is like, yeah, I'm not going to college. And they're like, there you go. Yeah, I got a position at Google, or should I go work for Facebook? I don't know, man. And it turns out these kids partied their ass off and hardly even went to school. Meanwhile, these two dumb motherfuckers have done everything they can to be the like model students, straight A students, perfect attendance students. Yeah, they plan, the head of the school president, head of several committees, and they just let their childhood slip by. Yeah. Missed all that good shit. So on that one night, decided to make up for it. Yeah. And these characters, you only see these characters, but all these characters are so funny. All the different types. Mm-hmm. Again, if it was under a less talented director who is Olivia Wilde here.
Yeah.
Who does a great job with this.
Under somebody else's direction, it would have just been, it's Superbad with chicks.
It would have been Superbad with chicks.
That's what it looks like. But then when you're watching it, it's like, man, there's so much more to this. It's got a lot more heart.
They are so funny. They are so like the gay drama student. I mean, it would be the gay drama student in any other movie. But here, that kid is funny as
takes away.
I loved it, man. Loved this movie. The only reason why I probably put it out my top 10 is because while I laughed all the way through, they did sort of the same things that you see in these wild, crazy night films. They do the drug trip. They have the fight amongst friends. They have the surprise romance. Oh, the person who was in front of me the whole time. They have those little things. Nothing really surprising as far as going outside of the characters, but those characters are hilarious, man. Mm. I really love this movie, and I watched it. It's one of those things I watched twice on the plane. Watched that, then there was a long ass flight to Japan. So I watched that. Then I watched Spider-Man. I was like, let me watch Booksmart again, because I saw my wife watching it, and I was like, shit, now I want to watch it again too. All right, let's jump into my bottom 5. We'll do the bottom 5, and then we'll do the top 5 on Tuesday. But at number 10, The Lighthouse. That says it all right there.
Looking at you.
That says it all right there, man. That one frame. This is a movie that beautifully, and when you look at that scene, you know what I'm talking about with this. Or this still right here, beautifully captures two men slowly losing their fucking minds from being around each other too long, and from isolation.
On a little island with nothing else to do.
With nothing else to do. First of all, he had nothing else to do but work, and the other just tell him what to do when he's working.
Just yell at him. Just to drink, fart, and yell at him.
Fart. Yeah, they hate each other. Robert Pattinson and Willem Dafoe. Willem Dafoe is riding his ass, man. If you're like Martin and myself, and you ever worked with your father and hated it, then you will relate to this film right here.
Keeping secrets, are you? No, sir. Why just spill your beans?
Everything is crazy in this movie, and I love the way they capture the isolation between these guys and the way they just lose it, and it gets more chaotic as it goes along. You have the cinematography, which is just building up too, the way the waves are crashing up against this lighthouse that they're in, and also the deliriums that they're going through and the visions that they're seeing, which
that question of how much, what in here is real.
Yeah.
And what is delirium?
Exactly. To the point where, you know, it even has a hidden message if you care to take it and try to figure it out on your own. They call it a horror movie only because it's spots of horror images in there. But really, man, it's just two dudes who are just losing their shit. Yeah. And it's beautifully shot, man. And again, the reason why I didn't recommend this higher is because it's something that I know that I cannot recommend to everybody out there. But I mean, I tell you, if you love cinema, such as Martin Scorsese does, so I'm sure that he would love this too. And if for nothing else, man, you gotta watch this movie for that seagull. There's my favorite part. There's a seagull. If you ever watch this dude last movie, the Vivitch, he had an evil ass goat in there called Black Phillip.
Black Phillip.
This seagull in the movie is the bird version of Black Phillip. That bird is an asshole. Yes. And it had me laughing so hard. I won't say anything else, but that seagull, people need to give him more of a credit, man. Let me see. This is probably no surprise from after our review of this movie that it would make our list at number 9.
How's it going? How are you? Good Pesach out. All right, Larry, you're a Jew again. Welcome back.
I'm surprised this made your list because when we reviewed it, I liked it so much more than you.
No, I really liked it. I think you liked it more than me because I mentioned that it had problems. The problems that I had with it are things that kept it from being higher on my list. But everybody's talking about Adam Sandler's performance, and that's selling the movie on that. But really, Adam Sandler wouldn't be able to give this performance if it weren't for the directors having such a crazy-ass story with this. Yeah. They're called the Safdie brothers who made this. You know, you heard me mention that they made one of my favorite movies, which is Good Time with Robert Pattinson.
Yeah.
And, you know, they made a movie with a skilled sense of pacing that made me more anxious watching this movie than it did any other movie this year.
Yeah, just on the edge of your seat the whole time.
And they did it by bringing in the weirdest elements. This is Adam Sandler who plays a jewelry dealer who also has a gambling addiction, who makes stupid ass bets, and of course he gets himself in trouble. But it also involves a magic rock that gets stolen by Kevin Garnett, who he has to get the rock back from. You know, it's along with some other weirdnesses in here. It's a lot of weird elements that they managed to work very well together. And they took all these weird elements that, again, they go on a magical level almost, and they made it seem tangible. They made it seem real because these guys are able to work with people who are not actors, or at least skilled enough to not look like real actors. They feel like real people. So you feel like you're going around real New York with this guy, which it is New York, but when I say real New York, authentic New York with people who are real pawnbrokers, people who are real thugs.
Well, you're introduced deep into that world that you most likely didn't know about already.
Yeah, exactly, man. It's a crazy, crazy ass story, man. And the only reason why I didn't recommend it higher, and I said this the other day, I said that it's probably too chaotic for some people because they're yelling, they're screaming. That's the thing that kind of adds to the anxiousness of it, adds to the stress level of the movie. But somebody asked me the other day, should I go see this or should I go see Slim and Queen? And I said, you know what? Because they said I'm taking my mother and my grandmother to go see this movie. And I was like, I love Uncut Gems, but I can't recommend it because I don't think they'll be into it. I think they'll see a bunch of yelling and screaming and hollering and you know, they won't be able to make sense of it for the first 20, 30 minutes of the movie. And even when things start to make sense, they still won't make sense to them. So, it's a movie, I can't really find myself recommending to everybody. I know good and well what kind of movie this is, and there's only certain kinds of people that I can recommend this to. At number 8.
You're a top man. Prepare to leave the house.
I don't think I can do this.
Was? Of course you can.
It's hard to make a movie about the horrors of the Jewish Holocaust and the horrors that the Nazis committed and laugh the whole way through and actually address the things that the Nazis did. Mm-hmm. It's hard to make a fun-loving Hitler that you actually giggle at, you know? It's hard to make a movie about Nazis that have committed some of the most atrocious crimes on this planet and actually say, you know what? I like some of them. You know, it's a balance of this movie, Jojo Rabbit, directed by Taika Waititi.
Yeah.
That I said, man, you know, you took humor, and not just humor, but goofy ass humor. Mm-hmm. And you were able to make a movie that was also very emotional and still addressed what the Nazis had done and take it seriously. But the biggest draw for me in this movie that really makes me like it is one particular person. Yeah. And that would be right here. That would be Scarlett Johansson, who has had a great year this year.
Yeah.
But she is the breakout star this year as far as making something other than Black Widow and taking dramatic roles.
I'm just thinking she's got 3 movies in my top 10.
But yeah, man, she is the emotional anchor of this movie. She is one that is not that funny, even though she's very charming in the film at times. And I have to look at it and say, man, for all the goofiness that goes on in this movie, she was the dramatic part of the film.
Absolutely.
Honestly, the part of the movie that I right there with you, I love this film, but the part of the movie that I thought was the weakest was honestly Taika Waititi's performance as Hitler. And it was almost unnecessary to the point where it's like, you don't even need this element. It still works with the film itself.
No,
but it's the least important.
You're right, but it's so much to where he serves a purpose.
Yes.
Up to a point where he doesn't.
Yeah.
Because there's even a point where he's gone for a good chunk of it.
Yeah. That's what keeps this from going higher into my list, too. Mm-hmm. I don't think that all the performances were convincing or all that good. Taika Waititi was funny sometimes as Hitler, but also there were times it was like, okay, that's really not that funny. And I'm not saying like offensive funny, just like, it's not, joke just didn't work.
Didn't have the hit that
the line just wasn't written that well. The delivery wasn't as good as I'm sure he thought it might be. Mm-hmm. But also there were other characters in here that just didn't work either. Yeah. Rebel Wilson, man.
Yeah,
Rebel Wilson was not that good in this. And I loved
Sam Rockwell.
Great. I thought he was great, but even his accent was just it would come in sometimes when he felt like it. And sometimes it would go. But he was a really great character in the movie, man.
Yeah, he was different.
Yeah, I really liked him. That's why I'm talking about when don't hate us. See the movie first. He's a Nazi. He's a likable Nazi.
Yeah, exactly. There's no such thing. Like, it turns out there is. Yeah.
If you can't hate a Nazi, who can you hate? I don't know, but you couldn't hate him. My number 7 film, as being one of the best of 2019, is this one.
What's wrong, Dad? Please tell me.
Your nan is dying.
Really? Salah?
This is The Farewell, which is a movie starring Awkwafina. I don't think it's been getting too much attention from people out there.
Actually, I've been hearing people talk about it a lot lately. Yeah.
That's good, because I think the movie's great. It's one of the most unique dramas that I've ever seen that avoids being overdramatic, where Hollywood would take this subject matter and they'd be crying their ass off. This is something to ask you. The point is not to cry.
Right.
The point. Now, this is a story where you have somebody's Awkwafina. Her nana is dying. Her grandmother's dying. or so they say. You know, she's been diagnosed with an illness that should be taken out in a few months. But instead of everybody crying and telling her about it and saying their last goodbyes, everybody's telling her, no, you know what? You're in perfect health.
Yeah.
You're in perfect health. And, oh, guess what? You know what? It's a good thing you're in perfect health because, you know, one of your grandkids is getting married over here. We're going to have a big celebration. The celebration is actually to say the goodbyes, and everybody knows it. Everybody's in on it except Nana. A 9-9, whoever. And Awkwafina plays a character who has a hard time dealing with that because she doesn't like to lie, especially to someone she loves, and she doesn't like the deception.
And she's been Americanized, so
And that's the thing about the movie, man. It's a great lesson in how other cultures do their thing. You know, you have to challenge yourself while watching this movie, and I just love the way they handle it, man. It's not something where it's over dramatic. Everything here is not handled completely with laughs and humor, but at the same time, it's not dealt with complete sadness. Their handler they let the movie speak for itself.
don't you feel like if you lived in China, you were old, and suddenly everybody was getting together, you'd be like, "Oh shit, what's wrong?"
we said that during the review.
How much longer do I have?
Yeah, you go to a wedding, you get up and like, "I'm dying, ain't I?" Just tell me. No, this is a real wedding.
Stupid.
Yeah, no, we're really getting married. F you, tell me. Yeah, man.
You don't love him. Come on.
You motherfuckers. I know what y'all are doing. Sit down, now. No, good off me. But this is great, though, man. It is a really impressive performance. I think it's a breakout performance for Awkwafina. It does have a very indie spirit film to it, or filmmaking feel to it, because they have that. They have the metaphors with a dead bird that pops up, and it's like, okay, this movie could have done without that. It would have been perfectly fine without that. It says really nothing. They got that dude plucking the guitar, playing the indie movie music.
Oh yeah.
And it's like, all right, So, but it's still a great film. Still a great film.
Guy. Man, I have worked steady since the 2000s.
All right. Let's go ahead and get to my number 6. And then on Tuesday, I'll do 5 through 1. Well, these guys would do the rest of their list on that day. And at number 6.
I know I said no more surprises, but I was really hoping to pull off one last one.
I mean, what can we say for the reason why this made my number 6 or why it's in my top 10? I mean, we can say the same old shit. It's done whatever no other movie's done before. I mean, come on. It's the one thing that I say, y'all know what the deal is. Do I really need to explain? I mean, this movie made history. It made history because of what all the other movies before it accomplished. And the reason why, you're going to say, well, this is just relying on the crutch of all these other movies. This is what we said with Star Wars. This is why I look at this movie and I turn around and wipe my ass with Star Wars. Because your last movie, that's going to be your crowning achievement.
Yeah.
You're going to have to take all the work that was done before in your last movie where you're going to make it or break it. You had to make it count. And they did it. They did it amazingly. I mean, they had people crying. They had people feeling lost. And they did it with the same goddamn formula that Marvel does it with, except they know where the importance is. Their characters.
Yeah. Well, they didn't just go through the formula. They stepped it up to the point that they made the blow-off movies relevant.
Yeah,
it's like where there's a point where I would have said like, well, you could skip this one and skip this one, and now I'm like, oh no, you can't, because they come back later and they're important. So.
I mean, we really haven't seen this before.
No.
You were lucky to be alive to see this. This made history, and you finally got to see your comic book dreams being brought to the screen the way comic books do it.
More ways than one.
Yeah.
Just visually, stuff you just always dreamed in the comic. I mean, fanboy stuff, certainly. Cap holding Thor's hammer, things like everyone just going for it, but just saying goodbye to some of these characters. Yes. Having the balls to say, like, we can move on from these people now, introduce new characters. That's exciting.
Yeah.
People to take over those mantles that we never thought they would ever do. Now we're seeing that.
This is the reason why. This movie is, all you have to do is sit down and have, I hate to bring this controversy in, but this is why you sit down with Martin Scorsese and make him watch this and just whisper in his ear, "Fuck you," the whole time.
It's better than Irish.
It's like you see, like you said, man. They made you feel for characters that we were losing.
Yeah.
They made you feel triumphant about the new characters' future prospects that were being introduced. They gave you one big moment that you had been looking for years, and they achieved it. You know, that Avengers Assemble moment.
Yeah.
Well, so many emotional moments in it, and you're not just the big death at the end and the goodbye, but just initially, just opening with Hawkeye turning around and his family's gone.
So many great moments of drama here.
Yeah, and the whole dealing with the last movie with people in recovery over what happened, like real consequences and things, and action doesn't kick in. I think it's like a good almost 30 minutes before there's any kind of action scene.
Yeah.
So there's my list, man. There it is right there. As I said, I will get to number 5 through top 5 on Tuesday.